and then have a family, and I got 3 kids now, and it's a whole long road later, and I have a much better sort of perspective on it all, although it's still can be very confusing and difficult to deal with.
I'm quite sure they probably called, and the FBI gave respect, and a courtesy call of Ben Affleck. It's a white man who got respect in the white world. I'm quite sure they said, we want to show you some things, because it brought your wife.
During the federal raids on Sean Diddy Combs' homes in Los Angeles and Miami earlier this year, it was reported that Diddy had cameras everywhere in his house and that he kept videotapes of prominent people engaging in compromising actions and illicit activities hidden in his safe.
You really thought that just running off and marrying Ben Affleck was going to take you out of the Diddy downfall? It saved her the first time though, didn't it? Because as soon as that club was over and as soon as they finished interrogating her, when she sat there and cried like a baby, I don't want to go to jail, Benny Medina put her with that drunk white boy.
Major twist has just shaken the courtroom in Diddy's high-profile trial, and it involves none other than Jennifer Lopez. That's right, J-Lo has officially been found guilty in a related case and was recently seen taking the stand. Her testimony didn't just raise eyebrows, it sent shockwaves through the industry. Once romantically linked to Diddy, J-Lo was there during some of the most controversial and chaotic moments of his past, and now she's breaking her silence. What she revealed in court connects several major celebrities to the darker side of Diddy's world, names that have never been mentioned publicly until now. The fallout? Some of those stars have reportedly vanished from the spotlight, while others are rumored to have fled the country. This could be the beginning of the end for more than just Diddy. Stay tuned, because what's coming next might expose an entire web of secrets hidden in plain sight.
The candidates are being asked about their own connections to or impressions of an array of celebrities, and with no explanation why, at least not yet. The parlor games have begun, my friends. Everybody is trying to connect the dots between the shiny, famous names and the beleaguered rap star Diddy and the charges.
According to Inner City Press, this is the exact testimony given in a federal courtroom during Sean Diddy Combs' trial, when Hollywood icon Leonardo DiCaprio entered the stand in a courtroom already shaken by bombshell testimony. Nobody anticipated what he would say. DiCaprio, who is well known for his environmental advocacy and successful movies, disclosed a dark side of his life that most people had never heard of, as he recounted a single night and an invitation from Sean Diddy Combs that altered his perception of celebrity events. His voice faltered. It was something far more sinister than champagne and pictures. In addition to shocking the jury, Leonardo's revelation sparked a media frenzy that made even the most influential people consequences. What did he observe? What kept him quiet for so long? What implications does this have for Diddy's trial going forward? It was oppressively quiet in the courtroom. Even though cameras were prohibited inside, it made no difference. The entire globe was observing. In an attempt to stay up to date with the decade's biggest story, reporters crowded the courthouse steps, typing furiously on laptops. Then the unexpected moment arrived. One of the most well-known actors in the world, Leonardo DiCaprio, walked in. He approached the witness stand slowly and deliberately, wearing a black suit and wearing a very frightened face. The gallery reverberated with gasps. There was no cameo here. This served as evidence. The judge requested silence. DiCaprio sat, inhaled, and fixed his gaze on Sean Diddy Combs on the other side of the room. What came next was not a show. It was an admission of terror about what he witnessed at a private gathering that Diddy himself had once invited him to. "I have attended a lot of weird parties in Hollywood," he said in a steady but aloof tone. However, this one was unique. This was planned. He spoke of a remote, guarded private estate with closed entrances and private jets for guests to arrive there. DiCaprio acknowledged his curiosity. "I assumed it would be glitzy, with A-list stars, networking, and so. However, I entered something completely different." DiCaprio said the celebration began like any other exclusive get-together. High-end catering, security, champagne, the works. However, as the evening wore on, he started to notice some unsettling things. He claimed there was a noticeable tension in the air, places that attendees were not permitted to approach, and people who appeared too young to be drinking. He acknowledged that he felt as though he had entered an inappropriate area. Then he revealed the shocking information. I was not supposed to see the back room. There was a crack in the door. I noticed people in line and cameras. Diddy was also present, issuing commands. It was no longer a celebration, something more sinister, something planned. The gallery let forth a gasp. With his legal team at his sides, Diddy sat still. Murmurs became headlines, and the judge granted a brief recess. The curtain enclosing Diddy's inner circle had just been ripped apart by DiCaprio's testimony, and this was just the start. Leonardo DiCaprio took the stage again after the break. He appeared much more determined this time. He was going to reveal something that would put him in the center of one of the case's most unsettling disclosures. I did not know if what I was witnessing was illegal, but I knew it was not right, he added, halting when I glimpsed the back room. Some of the people inside were anxious as they watched the cameras. Their enjoyment was lacking. They were being observed. He spoke of a girl who was no more than 20 years old. A bunch of significantly older guys sat around her on a crimson velvet couch. I briefly captured her attention, DiCaprio added, and she appeared frightened in that gaze. The courtroom hung on his every word as his voice broke. I never got tired of that look. Leo went on to explain how the party's security was oddly combative. Visitors were not permitted to roam around or pose inquiries. You have to remain in the public areas, he added. If you attempted to explore, security guards would gently but firmly reroute you. Some had earpieces, while others did not. But the forbidden areas were not limited to the rooms. It was the action. By midnight, DiCaprio claimed he began witnessing people vanish for extended periods of time. He saw famous people who appeared out of nowhere and then returned with a pale or confused appearance. It was more than a celebration. People seemed to be being processed. I kept hearing that word. There was a stunned silence in the courtroom. Leonardo claimed that when he attempted to depart early, he was informed that his driver was running late. "We respect you too much, Mr. DiCaprio, for you to go like this," a man in a black suit replied coolly when he pushed him away. "Let us take you to the lounge, please." Leo recalled that they said it as if it were a privilege. However, it seemed to be a warning. He spent more than an hour sitting in a room with glass walls, no phone signal, jazz music playing softly, and a silent bartender. After a while, a car did come and he was free to go. He confessed, "I never told anyone because I did not think anyone would believe me. I have to though, now that I can see what is coming out." Diddy's legal team scrawled notes frantically as the judge nodded thoughtfully. DiCaprio did not see a party. The humans within were the moving parts of a machine. DiCaprio was asked how Diddy responded to his presence that evening after he revealed what he observed behind the velvet curtain. Leo replied, "I was going to exit that back area when Diddy saw me, and that is when things truly got weird. For a moment only. He looked at me as if I knew too much, I swear. A fierce look, according to the performer. It was not rage. It was not even unexpected. It was more of a premeditated move, as if he was mentally filling me in. Later, when people he knew withdrew themselves, when film opportunities halted, and when calls went ignored, Leonardo acknowledged that he had recognized the gravity of that moment. He said softly but purposefully, "It felt like something invisible pulled me out of some rooms." At award events and galas, he started to meet members of that party again, if briefly, and they would look at me strangely, like if we were all marked. Leo claimed that the house began to haunt him in his dreams. He made an effort to dismiss it and justify it. Perhaps he persuaded himself it was just a strange Hollywood phenomenon. Then I saw the accusations though, the tale of Cassie, the videos, the abductions. He received an anonymous call at that moment. They were aware that I attended the gathering. "You saw more than you should have," the caller claimed. Leo let it die. They hung up after that. He kept it to himself. Not his spokesperson, not his representative, not even his closest companions. So far, there was startled stillness in the courtroom. He was asked one last question by the prosecution. "Why come forward at this time?" "Because no one is too big to fall," DiCaprio replied, glancing straight at Diddy, "Not even you." Thus, one of the biggest stars in Hollywood just contributed to the downfall of one of the most influential and feared men in the music business. The prosecution changed its focus since Leonardo DiCaprio's every utterance was now the center of attention in the courtroom. Leo's hands on the stand began to shake as they asked him a question. "Have you ever been informed about what was happening behind those closed doors?" DiCaprio gave a slow nod. He answered, "I did not want to know. However, I was informed nonetheless." He testified that days after the party, a colleague actor, whose identity was kept secret in court for safety reasons, pulled him aside. "You were fortunate to leave early," the actor replied. "Those gatherings have activities that are far more than just doing doing drugs or drinking booze. It has to do with lists, blackmail, and control. Leo described the incident with a clearly distressed expression. He informed me that a list of all the people who had ever been videotaped or compromised within that home existed, a real one. It was employed to ensure that no one spoke, remained compliant, and maintained contact with Diddy. There was a gasp in the courtroom. It was the way favors were exchanged, he said, not in cash, silently. Following this talk, Leo disclosed he started to realize how many people he knew were connected to Diddy in some way. Suddenly, people who would not even ordinarily be in the same social circles were supporting his endeavors, attending his events, and grinning as if nothing had changed. However, Leo's description of Diddy's mansion's design was the most terrifying. I discovered that renovations had been made to split the space rather than enlarge it, to create locations no one ever discussed, camera control centers, and secret rooms. He cited plans he had seen circulated within a group chat of what he described as concerned industry insiders. Although he did not present the designs in court, the prosecution did state that they intended to provide evidence that supported Leo's allegations. DiCaprio claimed that the party's true objective was not social, it was monitoring. When they believed no one would find out, he continued, they wanted to see how far individuals would go. However, someone always managed to find out. The court called a 15-minute break as Leo was wrapping up his explanation of the list and the mansion's concealed infrastructure. Diddy gritted his jaw and sat calmly at the defense table. However, he did not appear powerful for the first time. He appeared vulnerable. The court resumed after the break. The energy in the room changed instantly when the prosecution stood and posed a question to DiCaprio. Have you ever interacted with somebody you thought was being detained there against their will, Mr. DiCaprio? Leo paused. Then he gave a nod. He narrowed his eyes and added, I was looking for a bathroom. I went farther than I should have. I heard sobbing as I unlocked a door and began to descend a stairway. The corridor beneath the main floor, he explained, was dim, small, and lined with storage doors. A tiny compartment with a tinted glass panel was at the end. Inside, I noticed a female. She was sobbing while sitting on the floor with her knees up to her chest. She appeared no more than 18, according to Leo. I asked her if she was alright as I cracked open the door. Panicked, she shook her head and glanced up. A man then materialized behind me. I was not permitted down there, he said, grabbing the door and slamming it shut. Leo remembered exactly what the man had said. No, Mr. DiCaprio, wrong floor. Nothing caught your attention. Return upstairs. He informed the court that no one would handle it when he attempted to report it later. No studio, not a single media outlet, not even my own group. After that, he talked of weeks of emotional struggle. He experienced flashbacks. He was unable to concentrate on his work. He stayed away from public gatherings for about a year. He claimed that I grew fixated on identifying her. However, she seemed to be non-existent, not a record, not a press. Leo realized then that something far more significant was involved. There was someone who could erase people, he remarked gravely, and they could accomplish anything if they could accomplish that. It was not just my house, Leo said when asked if he thought Diddy knew about the basement. He designed it. There, nothing occurred without his consent. They froze the jury. DiCaprio was no longer merely an observer. He was starting to speak for dozens, perhaps hundreds, of people who had never been given the opportunity. When the prosecution questioned DiCaprio if he recognized the term lighthouse in connection with Diddy's events, the day's last testimony took an unexpected turn. There was silence in the room. DiCaprio gave a nod. He stated that was the code name. At those occasions, everyone understood what that meant. Only those who were invited to the highest echelons of his inner circle were able to use the word in silence. He explained how the phrase was coined one evening during a private discussion with a senior music executive. You have visited the lighthouse, he informed me. Now you understand what it implies. I knew he was right, but I remained silent. You could see everything from inside it. DiCaprio responded when asked why it was given that name. You could not turn back once you saw it. Then, however, came the unexpected portion. At these gatherings, Leo was asked if he had ever witnessed Diddy engaging with any influential politicians. Barack Obama, he added after taking a breath. Gasps sounded across the courtroom. I never saw Obama in the home, he explained, but I did witness him interacting with Diddy at fundraisers, private after parties, and campaign events. Additionally, I witnessed Diddy at least once give an envelope to a member of Obama's inner circle. It was not nothing, but it was covert. Leo read out loud one of her messages. They will bury him if anyone ever finds out what he did to us. However, they will also bury us. Even if no one believes what occurred, I simply want someone to tell it out. That "That is why I am here," DiCaprio remarked, turning to face the court. He concluded the portion of his testimony by stating that he thought Diddy's empire was based on silence, shame, and terror in addition to music. He claimed that although the man is capable of dancing, you should pay attention to the shadows that follow him. The courtroom remained motionless as the judge called for another brief break. Even the defense did not speak. It was clear that something had changed in the room as the jury returned. Diddy had become noticeably paler. While his team shuffled files, one lawyer angrily whispered in his ear. A courtroom microphone recorded Diddy muttering something beneath his breath. "This is not over," he said. "This is all a lie. All of them are actors. Then you finally realize what it is like to be in one of my movies," Leo said quietly. "You do not receive a script this time." The court was adjourned for the day by the judge. Reporters hurried away. The jury was still, and Diddy appeared helpless for the first time in a long time. Leonardo DiCaprio passed a small group of people as he left the courtroom while being escorted by police. A few people cheered. Others simply stared in shock. Regardless of their belief in him, everyone was aware of one thing: Diddy had changed along with the trial.